The great hall on Nexus Prime had never seen anything like this before. Every seat was filled. Every species in the galaxy had sent their best speakers to this emergency meeting. The air buzzed with different languages and the sound of alien breathing patterns. Some creatures floated in tanks of special gas. Others stood on multiple legs or hung from the ceiling with wing-like arms. Admiral Zektar walked into the center of the hall. His purple skin gleamed under the bright lights. His forearms moved as he talked, and his voice was loud and clear. He was the top military leader of the Hegemony Empire, and everyone knew his name. Behind him, a huge screen showed pictures of star maps and battle plans. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Admiral Zektar began. I come before you today to announce our next great victory. The Hegemony Empire will take control of the Sol system and its third planet, which the locals call Earth. The hall went completely silent. Not one creature made a sound. Even the Ephemerians, who were made of gas and always whispered to each other, stopped moving. Admiral Zektar looked around, confused by the strange quiet. Then an old archiver stood up. The archivers were the oldest species in the galaxy. They kept all the records and remembered everything that had ever happened. This one was so old that his gray skin looked like ancient stone. His 6 eyes blinked slowly as he spoke. Admiral Zektar, the archiver said in a voice that sounded like wind through caves. You speak of a world that should not be spoken of. We have records going back 10,000 years. Every species that has tried to conquer that world has disappeared completely. A ripple of fear went through the hall. Several small creatures ran for the exits. The crystalline Vorthok, who looked like walking diamonds, made a sound like breaking glass. They were shaking with terror. Nonsense, Admiral Zektar laughed. These are just old stories meant to scare children. My scouts have studied this world. The humans who live there have barely learned to fly between their own planets. They send out simple radio signals like children playing with toys. They fight each other with primitive weapons. They are weak. A representative from the hive mind. Collective clicked forward. The collective was made up of billions of insect-like creatures that all shared one giant brain. They had conquered entire star systems by working together like one huge army. Nothing scared them. But now, all their eyes were wide with fear. We have touched the edges of that system. The collective spoke with 1,000 voices at once. Our scouts went there 500 years ago. They found wrongness. The third planet radiates something that hurts to think about. We lost contact with our ships. When we sent more ships to find them, those ships never came back either. We marked that system as forbidden. We tell all our children never to go there. More species began to speak up. The Krillian Confederacy, who loved war more than anything else, told stories of their greatest warriors going to Earth and never returning. The peaceful Zephyrians, who had never lost a single ship in 1,000 years of space travel, spoke of how their vessels simply stopped working when they got too close to the human world. The humans look weak, said a Zephyrian with tears in her large blue eyes. But that world makes monsters out of everything that lives there. The gravity is too strong. The weather tries to kill everything. The very air is poisonous to most life. And somehow, the humans not only survive there, they thrive. What kind of creature can live in such a place? Admiral Zektar waved his 4 arms dismissively. You are all afraid of shadows and old stories. Yes, their world might be harsh, but that just means they are tough. Tough can be useful. We will make them part of our empire, and they will serve us well. An ancient Vorthak stepped forward, his crystal body glowing with inner light. Admiral, please listen. We are not young species telling fairy tales. We have conquered worlds. We have fought wars across the stars. But Earth is different. There is something about humans that is not natural. They should not exist, but they do. They should have died on their harsh world long ago, but instead they became stronger. We have intercepted some of their communications, added a representative. From the Tech Coalition. They tell stories to each other about their own history. Wars that killed millions of their own kind. Diseases that should have ended their species. Ice ages that should have frozen them all. Asteroid impacts that should have destroyed their world. And yet, each time they face extinction, they come back stronger than before. Admiral Zektar's confidence began to waver just a little, but his pride was too strong. He had built his reputation on conquering the impossible. The Hegemony Empire controlled 847 worlds across 23 star systems. No one had ever defeated them in battle. I have brought 12 full invasion fleets to this system, he announced. 50,000 ships, 2 million of our finest warriors. Advanced weapons that can crack planets in half. No primitive world can stand against such power. The hall erupted in panicked voices. Creatures were shouting warnings in dozens of languages. Some were praying to their gods. Others were already sending messages to their home worlds, telling them to prepare for something terrible. The old archiver stood up again. His voice cut through all the noise like a blade. Admiral Zektar, we beg you, do not do this thing. Mark that system as forbidden, like all wise species have done. Some worlds are not meant to be touched. Some creatures are not meant to be awakened. The humans have been quiet for now, but if you attack them, if I attack them, they will surrender or die, Admiral Zektar interrupted. Just like every other species that has stood against the Hegemony Empire. He turned and walked toward the exit, his battle plans tucked under one arm. Behind him, the representatives of 100 species sat in stunned silence. They all knew that something terrible was about to happen. They had done everything they could to warn him, but pride and arrogance had made him deaf to their words. As Admiral Zektar's ship left Nexus Prime, the old archiver spoke quietly to his assistant. Begin preparing the memorial records. We will need them soon. The invasion fleet was already gathering at the edge of hegemony space. 12 massive groups of warships, each one capable of destroying entire worlds. Admiral Zektar looked at his forces with satisfaction. Soon, Earth would bow before the might of the Hegemony Empire. He had no idea that he was about to learn why every species in the galaxy feared a small blue world in an unremarkable star system. The space around Earth's solar system had been quiet for millions of years. Then, like a storm appearing from nowhere, the sky filled with enemy ships. 12 massive fleets dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. The ships were huge, dark, and covered with weapons that could destroy entire cities with one shot. Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. Through the large windows, he could see his invasion force spread out like a metal cloud. 50,000 warships of different sizes floated in perfect formation. Each ship carried soldiers, weapons, and everything needed to conquer a world. The Admiral smiled with his sharp teeth. No planet had ever survived an attack like this. Begin the scan of the target system, he ordered his crew. His voice echoed through the bridge where dozens of alien officers worked at their stations. Screens lit up with information about the solar system ahead of them. The scan results appeared on the main display. Admiral Zektar studied the information carefully. The third planet was blue and green, covered mostly with water. Several smaller planets orbited around a yellow star. Everything looked normal and peaceful. Sir, reported his intelligence officer, a creature with multiple eyes and tentacles for arms. We are detecting primitive technology throughout the system. Radio signals, basic satellite networks, and what appears to be early space travel capabilities. There are some structures on the planet's moon and a few small outposts on nearby planets. Admiral Zektar nodded, exactly as our scouts reported. They are barely more advanced than animals. What about their military strength? Very limited, sir. We see some orbital platforms around their world, maybe 50 or 60 small stations. Their warships appear to be tiny compared to ours. Most of their military seems to be on the planet's surface using projectile weapons and chemical explosives. The Admiral laughed loudly. Chemical explosives. They still use gunpowder while we have plasma cannons that can melt mountains. This will be the easiest conquest in hegemony history. But something strange was happening at the edge of the solar system. Earth's deep space monitoring stations had detected the invasion fleet the moment they arrived. Within minutes, signals were racing across the system at the speed of light. Warning messages flew from station to station, planet to planet, and moon to moon. On Earth, in a building called the United Nations headquarters, alarms were ringing. Men and women in uniforms ran through hallways carrying reports and giving orders. In the center of it all sat an older woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She was the Secretary General, the person who spoke for all of humanity. How many ships? She asked the general standing beside her. Our best count is around 50,000, ma'am. Spread across 12 main groups. They're unlike anything we've seen before, but they match the descriptions from the old warning files. The Secretary General nodded slowly. She had hoped this day would never come, but humanity had been preparing for it anyway. Send the evacuation signal to all civilian stations. Get our people to safety, then activate the defensive protocols. Around the solar system, things that had looked like simple mining stations and research outposts suddenly began to change. Panels slid open to reveal weapon systems. Innocent-looking asteroids split apart to show massive guns inside. What the aliens thought were primitive satellites began moving into attack positions. Meanwhile, Admiral Zektar decided it was time to talk to the humans. He activated the communication system and sent a message toward Earth. His image appeared on screens all across the planet, showing his purple skin, sharp teeth, and 4 powerful arms. Primitive beings of the third planet, he began, his voice full of authority and threat. I am Admiral Zektar of the Hegemony Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Lay down all weapons, gather your leaders, and prepare to serve your new masters. If you resist, we will destroy your cities, enslave your people, and turn your world into ash. This is your only warning. The transmission ended, and Admiral Zektar waited for a response. He expected to receive messages of panic, fear, and begging for mercy. Instead, after several hours, a simple reply came back from Earth. The image showed the Secretary General sitting calmly at her desk. Behind her was a flag with symbols representing all of Earth's nations. She looked directly into the camera and spoke in a clear, steady voice. Admiral Zektar, this is the Secretary General of the United Earth Government. We have received your message and considered your demands carefully. Our response is simple: we decline. Earth and all human colonies are not for sale, conquest, or surrender. We suggest you leave our system immediately and never return. That was it. No begging, no fear, no attempts to negotiate. Just a polite but firm refusal. Admiral Zektar stared at the screen in disbelief. In his long career, he had conquered hundreds of worlds. Every species had either surrendered immediately or tried to bargain for better terms. No one had ever just said no and meant it. These humans are either very brave or very stupid, he muttered to his officers. Begin the advance. All fleets, move toward the inner system. Destroy any resistance you encounter. The massive invasion force began moving forward like a slow-moving storm of metal and death. Admiral Zektar expected to reach Earth's orbit within 2 days and have the planet under control within a week. But as his ships advanced deeper into the solar system, strange things started happening. Ships on the outer edge of his formation began reporting problems. Communication systems started failing for no reason. Navigation computers gave wrong readings. Some vessels reported that their weapons were overheating, even though they hadn't. Fired a shot. "Sir," called out his communications officer, sounding worried. "We've lost contact with Patrol Group 7. They were investigating that large asteroid field near the fourth planet." "Lost contact?" Admiral Zektar turned around quickly. "What do you mean, lost contact?" "They stopped responding to our calls. About an hour ago, their tracking signals went dead. It's like they just disappeared." Admiral Zektar felt a small cold feeling in his stomach, but he pushed it away. "Send another patrol group to find them. Probably just equipment failure." But within a few hours, the second patrol group also vanished without a trace. Then a third group investigating some space stations around the gas giant planet stopped reporting back. Each time, the ships simply went quiet, their signals cutting off as if they had never existed. "Sir," his intelligence officer said nervously, "maybe we should slow down our advance. Something is wrong here." Admiral Zektar slammed his fist on the command console. "Nothing is wrong. These are primitive humans with primitive technology. We are the hegemony empire. We do not slow down for anyone." But deep inside, he was beginning to remember the warnings from the Galactic Council. Every species had told him to stay away from Earth. Every single one had looked afraid when they talked about humans. For the first time since the invasion began, Admiral Zektar wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. Admiral Zektar had lost 9 patrol groups and still had no idea what was happening to his ships. They would go to investigate something and simply vanish. No distress calls, no explosions, no debris fields. One moment they were there, the next moment they were gone. "This is impossible," he growled at his officers. "Primitive species do not have technology to make our ships disappear. Send the 3rd Battle Fleet to investigate that asteroid belt where we lost the first patrols." The 3rd Battle Fleet was made up of 200 heavy warships, each one capable of destroying a small moon. They moved carefully toward the asteroid field, scanning everything with their most powerful sensors. Admiral Zektar watched from his flagship as they approached the rocky debris floating in space. "Sir," called out the fleet commander over the communication system, "we're seeing something strange here. These asteroids ... They're not natural. They've been carved out from the inside. It looks like someone has been living in them." "Admiral." Zektar leaned forward in his command chair. "Living in asteroids? Show me." The main screen filled with images from the battle fleet's cameras. What they saw made everyone on the bridge go quiet. The asteroids were not just rocks floating in space. They were fortresses. Huge hollow rocks with metal structures inside them, connected by tunnels and communication arrays. Some were as big as cities. "How many of them are there?" Admiral Zektar asked. "Sir, we're counting at least 300 modified asteroids in this field alone." "But sir, that's not the strangest part. They're all empty. No life signs, no activity. No power signatures. It's like everyone just left." Admiral Zektar felt that cold feeling in his stomach growing stronger. "Empty? Then where are our missing patrol groups?" Before anyone could answer, space around the 3rd Battle Fleet exploded into action. The empty asteroids were not empty at all. Hidden weapon systems suddenly activated. Panels that looked like normal rocks slid away to reveal massive cannons. Missile tubes opened like the mouths of giant metal snakes. The asteroids fired all at all. Once, thousands of weapons lit up the darkness of space with deadly energy beams and explosive missiles. But these were not the primitive chemical weapons that Admiral Zektar expected. These were advanced plasma cannons, gravity bombs, and something else entirely new. "Sir, the 3rd Fleet is under attack," screamed the communications officer. "They're taking heavy damage." On the main screen, Admiral Zektar watched his powerful warships getting destroyed by weapons that seemed to come from nowhere. The human missiles were strange. They moved like living things, changing direction to follow ships that tried to escape. When they hit, they didn't just explode. They seemed to eat through the hull of his ships, spreading like a disease. How are they doing this? Admiral Zektar shouted. Our intelligence said they barely understand space travel. But the attack was just beginning. More asteroids throughout the solar system began to reveal their true nature. What the hegemony had thought was a simple asteroid belt was actually the largest minefield in galactic history. Each rock was a hidden fortress filled with weapons, supplies, and automated defense systems. The human strategy became clear. They had let the hegemony ships spread out through the solar system, then activated their hidden defenses all at once. Admiral Zektar's forces were trapped in the middle of a giant killing field. Sir, we're getting reports from all our fleets, the communications officer said, his voice shaking with fear. The fourth fleet near the gas giant is under attack by what they describe as space whales. The seventh fleet reports that the planets, moons are firing at them. And sir, the ninth fleet says that empty space itself is shooting at them. Admiral Zektar stood up from his chair. That's impossible. Empty space can't shoot at anything. But as he watched the battle reports coming in, he realized that the humans had been preparing for this invasion for a very long time. They had hidden weapons everywhere, stealth satellites that were invisible until they fired, mines that looked like space rocks but exploded when ships got too close, and strangest of all, weapons that seemed to appear from nothing and disappear just as quickly. The human technology was not primitive at all. It was so advanced that Admiral Zektar's sensors couldn't even detect it properly. The humans had been pretending to be weak while building the most dangerous defense system anyone had ever seen. Sir, incoming message from the humans, reported. The communications officer. The Secretary General appeared on screen again. She looked exactly the same as before, calm and unworried. Behind her, Admiral Zektar could see other humans working quietly at their stations. No one looked afraid or excited. They acted like destroying invasion fleets was just normal work. Admiral Zektar, she said in the same polite voice as before, you have now lost approximately 8,000 ships and 40,000 soldiers. We strongly suggest you withdraw your remaining forces from our solar system. This is your final warning. Admiral Zektar stared at her in shock. 8,000 ships? How do you know our exact losses? The Secretary General smiled just a little. Admiral, we've been watching your empire for quite some time. We know exactly how many ships you brought, where they are, and what weapons they carry. We also know that you ignored the warnings of every other species in the galaxy. That was unwise. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zektar staring at a blank screen. Around him, his officers were getting more and more panicked as reports of losses kept coming in. Sir, the Fifth Fleet is requesting permission to retreat, called out the tactical officer. They say the enemy is using weapons that phase in and out of reality. They can't hit targets that keep disappearing and reappearing. The 11th Fleet reports that they're being attacked by their own missiles, added another officer. Somehow the humans are taking control of our weapons and turning them against us. Admiral Zektar felt his confidence cracking like ice in a storm. He had brought the most powerful invasion force in hegemony history to conquer what he thought was a primitive world. Instead, he was watching that force get systematically destroyed by an enemy that fought like no species he had ever encountered. The humans didn't fight fair. They didn't line up their ships for honorable battle. They hid, they used tricks, they turned his own weapons against him. They fought like the universe itself was trying to kill his ships, but the worst part was that Admiral Zektar was beginning to realize this was not even a real fight for the humans. They were not using their full strength. They were just testing his forces, learning how his ships worked, and slowly taking them apart piece by piece. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Zektar was truly afraid. Admiral Zektar had lost 4 complete fleets. 20,000 ships and hundreds of thousands of soldiers were gone. His remaining 8 fleets were scattered throughout the solar system, afraid to move because every time they did, more ships disappeared. He sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display. Red marks showed where his ships had been destroyed. There were so many red marks that the screen looked like it was covered in blood. "Sir," his intelligence officer said quietly, "we've intercepted some human communications. I think you need to hear this." The bridge speakers crackled to life with human voices. They were speaking in their own language, but the translation system worked perfectly. What Admiral Zektar heard made his blood run cold. "Control Center, this is Mars Defense. Grid, we've finished our weapons test on the alien fleets. All systems working normally. Requesting permission to begin Phase 2. Mars Defense Grid, this is Control Center. Permission granted. Earth Defense Command, are you ready? Control Center, Earth Defense Command is ready. All orbital battle. Stations are online. Weather control systems are active. Ocean launch platforms are standing by." Admiral Zektar stood up so fast he almost fell over. Weather control systems? Ocean launch platforms? What are they talking about? His intelligence officer looked at him with frightened eyes. "Sir, I think we made a terrible mistake. These humans... They're not primitive at all. They've been pretending to be weak while watching us the whole time." More human voices came through the speakers. "Luna Base, this is Jupiter Station. We've confirmed the alien fleet composition. 12 main groups, exactly as predicted. The Council of Species was right to warn them away. Jupiter Station, Luna Base confirms. All outer colonies are ready for combat operations. Should we reveal our true capabilities? Not yet, Luna Base. Let's see how they react to the basic defenses first." Admiral Zektar felt like he was falling into a deep, dark hole. Jupiter Station? Luna Base? How many colonies do these humans have? "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a priority message from Hegemony High Command." The main screen showed the Supreme Commander of all Hegemony forces. He was the most powerful military leader in the Empire, feared by every enemy species in the galaxy. But now he looked worried and angry. "Admiral Zektar, what is your status?" "Report, we're receiving distress signals from your fleets, but the messages make no sense. Our sensors show massive weapons firing in your area, but according to our intelligence, that system should have no significant defenses." Admiral Zektar didn't know what to say. How could he explain that everything they knew about humans was wrong? "Supreme Commander, the humans are more advanced than we thought. They have hidden weapons throughout their solar system. We've lost significant forces." "How significant?" The Supreme Commander demanded. 4 complete fleets, sir. The humans have technology we don't understand. They can make our weapons turn against us. They have battle stations hidden as asteroids. And sir, I think they have colonies throughout their region of space that we never detected." The Supreme Commander's face turned pale. 4 complete fleets? "Admiral, that's impossible. No species can destroy that many ships without us detecting massive industrial capabilities." "Sir, permission to speak freely?" "Granted. I think every species in the galaxy was right to warn us away from this system. The humans are not what they appear to be. This whole solar system is a trap, and we walked right into it." Before the Supreme Commander could respond, alarms started ringing throughout Admiral Zektar's flagship. The tactical officer shouted, "Over the noise, sir. New contacts appearing throughout the system. Massive energy signatures coming online." The main display changed to show the solar system map. New symbols were appearing everywhere. Dozens of battle stations around Earth were lighting up like stars. The planet's moon was revealing weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Mars showed underground facilities the size of cities. Even the outer planets had defensive installations that his sensors had completely missed, but the most shocking discovery was still coming. Deep space sensors detected ships approaching from outside the solar system, human ships. Hundreds of them, coming from different directions. "Sir," the sensor operator said in a voice full of disbelief, "we're detecting human vessels approaching from 17 different star systems. They're not coming from Earth, sir. They're coming from other worlds." Admiral Zektar felt his legs give out. He collapsed back into his command chair as the truth hit him like a physical blow. The humans were not a single planet species learning to travel in space. They were an interstellar civilization with colonies spread across multiple star systems. The intelligence officer was frantically working at his station. "Sir, I'm analyzing the approaching fleet compositions. These ships, they're using technology levels far beyond anything we've seen from Earth. Some of these vessels are larger than our biggest dreadnoughts. How is this possible?" "Admiral," Zektar whispered, "our scouts reported a primitive civilization. Single planet, basic radio communications, chemical rockets." "Sir," the communications officer said quietly, "I think they wanted us to see that. I think they've been pretending to be primitive while they watched our empire expand. They knew we were coming long before we decided to invade." The human communications were still coming through the speakers. Now Admiral Zektar understood that. He was listening to a military operation that had been planned for years. "All units, this is Earth Central Command. The alien invasion force has been reduced to manageable levels. Begin Operation Revelation. Let them see what they're really facing." Throughout the solar system, things that had looked empty or natural began to change. Space stations the size of small moons uncloaked around Earth. The planet itself revealed orbital rings covered with weapons. Even the sun seemed to have artificial structures near it, collecting energy for purposes Admiral Zektar didn't want to imagine. "Sir," his tactical officer said with terror in his voice, "Earth is not a planet with some defenses. Earth is a fortress that happens to be shaped like a planet. The entire world is a military installation." Admiral Zektar realized that humanity had turned their harsh, dangerous home world into the ultimate defensive position. Every natural disaster, every challenge their planet threw at them, had made them stronger and more prepared for war. The approaching human fleets were getting closer. Admiral Zektar could see them on his sensors now. Ships that moved in formations his tactical computers couldn't understand. Vessels that seemed to bend space around them. And at the center of the largest fleet was something that his sensors couldn't identify at all. "What is that?" he asked, pointing at the unknown contact. "Sir, our computers can't classify it. It's larger than anything we've ever built, but it doesn't match any known ship design. It's like they built something completely new." Admiral Zektar stared at the approaching human forces and finally understood why every species in the galaxy had warned him to stay away from Earth. He wasn't facing a primitive civilization that had gotten lucky. He was facing a species that had spent their entire existence learning how to survive impossible situations. And now they were about to show him exactly what they had learned. Admiral Zektar had 8 fleets left out of his original 12. 22,000 ships remained from the 50,000 he had brought to conquer Earth. His forces were scattered, confused, and afraid. Around them, human ships approached. From every direction like a closing trap, the flagship's communication system activated without anyone touching the controls. The Secretary General appeared on screen again, but this time she was not alone. Behind her stood military officers from different human colonies, each wearing uniforms that Admiral Zektar had never seen before. "Admiral Zektar," she said in the same calm voice she had used from the beginning, You now face the combined military forces of the Human Colonial Federation. We represent 47 worlds across 17 star systems. You have invaded our home system with hostile intent. We offer you one final chance to surrender. Admiral Zektar found his voice. Surrender? I am Admiral Zektar of the Hegemony Empire. We do not surrender to anyone. One of the human officers behind the Secretary General stepped forward. He was older, with gray hair and scars on his face. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had fought many wars. Admiral, I am Fleet Commander Chun of the Human Defense Forces. I have studied your military records. You are known for your tactical skills and your refusal to retreat. I respect that. But you need to understand what you are facing. The screen changed to show a tactical display of the solar system. Admiral Zektar gasped at what he saw. His remaining ships were surrounded by thousands of human vessels. Battle stations floated near every planet. Weapon platforms hung in space like metal spiders. The entire system was filled with defensive positions he had never detected. This is impossible, Admiral Zektar whispered. How long have you been preparing for this? Fleet Commander Chun smiled grimly. Admiral, we have been preparing for this since the first day we learned we were not alone in the galaxy. Every species we met told us about empires like yours. Conquerors who take what they want by force. We decided long ago that Earth would never bow to anyone. But your technology, Admiral Zektar protested. Our scouts reported primitive radio. Signals, chemical rockets, basic space travel. We wanted you to see that, the Secretary General said simply. Every species that has survived in this galaxy has learned the same lesson. Sometimes it is better to appear weak than to appear strong. We let you think we were primitive while we watched your empire grow and learned everything about your tactics, your weapons, and your weaknesses. Admiral Zektar felt anger rising in his chest. You deceived us. You made us look like fools. No, Admiral, Fleet Commander Chun replied. You made yourselves look like fools. Every species in the galaxy warned you to stay away from Earth. You chose not to listen because you thought you were stronger than everyone else. The tactical display changed again. Now it showed human colonies throughout nearby space. Worlds that Admiral Zektar had never known existed. Industrial planets, military bases, research stations, and colonies filled with billions of humans. 47 worlds, Admiral Zektar said in disbelief. How did we not know about 47 human worlds? Because we are very good at staying hidden when we want to, the Secretary General answered. We learned that skill on Earth, where everything in nature tries to kill you. Hiding and surviving are what humans do best. Admiral Zektar looked around his bridge at his frightened officers. They were all staring at the displays showing the true size of human civilization. The Hegemony Empire controlled 847 worlds, but they had built that empire by conquering weaker species one at a time. The humans had built their civilization in secret, never revealing their true strength until someone forced them to. What do you want from us? Admiral Zektar asked. We want you to leave, Fleet Commander Chun said firmly. Take your remaining ships and go home. Tell your Supreme Commander that Earth is protected by forces he cannot defeat. Tell him that if the Hegemony Empire ever attacks any human world again, we will not be so merciful next time. Merciful? Admiral Zektar stood up angrily. You call destroying 30,000 of my ships merciful? Yes, the Secretary General said without emotion. Because we could have destroyed all of them in the first hour if we had wanted to. We let you live so you could carry a message back to your empire. Admiral Zektar realized she was telling the truth. The humans had been playing with his invasion force like a cat playing with mice. They could have ended the battle at any time. And if I refuse to surrender? He asked. Fleet Commander Chun's expression became hard as steel. Then you will learn why every species in the galaxy fears humans. You will discover what happens when we stop holding back. As if to prove his point, one of the massive human ships fired a single shot at an empty piece of space. The weapon created a ball of pure energy that grew larger and larger until it was the size of a small moon. Then it simply disappeared, leaving nothing behind. That was our basic planetary defense cannon, Fleet Commander Chun explained. We have weapons that make that look like a toy. Admiral, please do not force us to show you what humans are truly capable of when we fight for our survival. Admiral Zektar looked at his tactical display one more time. His remaining ships were completely surrounded. Human forces outnumbered him 10-1, and their technology was clearly superior to anything the hegemony had ever built. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Zektar made the hardest decision a military commander could make. All ships, he said into his communication system. This is Admiral Zektar. We are withdrawing from this system immediately. Set course for hegemony space, maximum speed. A wise choice, Admiral, the Secretary General said. Have a safe journey home. As the surviving hegemony ships prepared to leave, Admiral Zektar asked one final question. Why did you let us live? Your forces could have killed us all. Fleet Commander Chun answered quietly. Because humans prefer peace to war, Admiral. We fight when we must, but we do not kill when we do not have to. Perhaps your empire can learn that lesson. The hegemony fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying news of their defeat back to their empire. Behind them, the human ships began to disappear. Again, fading back into the hidden defensive network that protected Earth. Admiral Zektar's invasion had lasted less than a week. When he reached hegemony space, the Supreme Commander took one look at his battle reports and immediately ordered all hegemony forces to avoid human space forever. The story of the failed Earth invasion spread throughout the galaxy. Every species that had warned against attacking the humans nodded sadly and said they had tried to prevent the disaster, and on Earth, humanity continued to appear primitive and peaceful to anyone who was watching from far away. But now they knew that the galaxy was full of empires that took what they wanted by force. So they continued to prepare, and they continued to watch, and they made sure that no one would ever threaten their home again.